Monday morning, July 31st, we hooked the rig up and left Haines RV Park there in Haines, Alaska, and drove out Lutek Inlet heading for the ferry terminal. We decided to take a ferry from Haines to Skagway, which is only a 45-minute or in about an hour trip by ferry, but it's an 8-hour trip by car if you go around, because you have to go around the inlet. So here's the ferry pulling into the terminal, and what really surprised me when we went to load was instead of pulling down this ramp, they had me back down the ramp. Once we got inside the ferry and we were going in the belly of the ferry, they had me pull forward and then back up into spot, and I very easily could have pulled down the ramp into the spot and then backed up into the parking area where they wanted me, but they had me back down the ramp. And you can see here as we are on the waterway, off there in the distance is the Skagway, and it was a pretty scenic trip over. But this cruise ship here on the right that we first come up to held 4,900 passengers just itself, and there were numerous other ones. And the village of Skagway is a village. It is not a big city. It's maybe 15 blocks long or so. As we were pulling into the harbor, I kept wondering, where is he going to put this thing? Because I couldn't see a ferry terminal, but it's between that white cruise ship on the left and the buildings on the right is where the ferry dock is. And he successfully pulled up to it, and we were able to successfully drive off. And the drive into the town of Skagway was not very long for us, only about a half mile or so. And up here, just past this marina on the right, we made a right turn, and our campground was just around this next corner. So it was a short drive to the campground, and we're driving by our camp spot right now. That first afternoon, we walked around the town of Skagway and saw this giant snowblower and had a passerby take us a picture as we posed in front of this snowblower on the front of a train engine. And from there, then we walked around the town. It has many, many shops, many jewelry stores, but it's really unique when you look up the street, and parked at the end of the street is a giant cruise ship like pictured here. Vickie is a lover of trains, and the one highlight of the trip for her was when we took this ride on the White Pass and Yukon Railroad up over the mountain. Unfortunately, on the day we took this train ride, it was a cloudy, rainy day up on top of the mountain. You can see the water dripping off the roof of the car in front of me, and we had to pull on a side track and let a train go in the opposite direction go by us with another load of passengers enjoying the view. And you can watch as we wave at each other as they go by. Gotcha. day after we took the ride on the railroad, Sophie and I took a walk. She in her stroller, and I pushed her down by the marina and down by the dock where one of the cruise ships was tied up, and it was quite interesting. The one thing I want to point out as we get to where we can see the marina where the boats are tied up is the length of the poles that are part of the docking system there. And the reason the poles are so tall is the huge tidal swing that happens in this part of Alaska. There are steel loops around these poles, and the loops are allowed to slide up and down, and tied to the loop then is the boat. That way the boat goes up and down as the tide goes up and down. But you can see how tall they are and what the huge tidal swing is. Those people in the orange jumpsuit got off a boat that they rowed out, an open air boat out. As Sophie and I finished our walk, we walked by the campground and by the back end of our rig parked there. Later on that afternoon, Vickie and I went to see a show called The Days of '98 Show, which is a story of a man named Soapy Smith who was a notorious outlaw back in that era. The next morning we hooked the rig up and started our long trip, leaving Alaska, heading south towards the lower 48. And of course you have to go through the Yukon Territory, and we decided instead of driving the Alaska Highway south, we would drive a highway called the Stewart-Cassiar Highway, and we'll show you some of that on the next video. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.